Warning: this video contains simulated blood and wounds. Viewer discretion is advised. So I know what you're thinking. I had a pretty fantastic weekend. Hopefully you did too. So first off, I got an adrenaline pin and I'm really excited about it. You know, there's those days in class in which you're just nodding off. You can't really stand listening to theater history anymore. But with your adrenaline pin, just give yourself a shot of it. And ooh boy, will that wake you right on back up. That's how you get straight A's in high school, man, with your adrenaline pin. Needle decompression kit. Oh, never mind. This is for decompressing a lung. Don't use this. This is not an adrenaline pin. Yes, goody gumdrops. I haven't even looked at that. As per regular, I explain what happens during my week, I ask you guys a couple questions, and then I explain what's going to happen on the YouTube channel for the next week. But for this Supdatey, I am just going to explain why I am covered in absolutely gallons of blood. And this isn't all it. No, we've got a bullet hole right here, which leads to what is probably one of the best makeup jobs I have ever seen in my life. Because, oh my gosh, does that look disgusting. Hold on, let me turn on the light here. Let me get some light on this picture. Let's see if I can't block out myself. Oh, it glistens. It's disgusting. I love it so much. And then it just goes down, you know, blood pouring. My pants are absolutely ruined. But hey, I got a free t-shirt out of it. And some sunglasses, so I'll look cool. So let me explain what's going on as you stare longingly into my chest wound here. So my college had a emergency mass casualty simulation, which is pretty much to make sure that the EMTs, the police force, and the emergency rescue system is prepared. Let me turn off this light. Is prepared for if there is an active shooter on campus or a car bomb or something that shouldn't be there, something that would create a lot of bad per se. And so they got a bunch of volunteers. I, of course, was one of those volunteers, and they made us all up from a bunch of makeup people, which were beautiful, by the way. I loved them with a passion, especially because they did this job on me, and they really went all out. I was the very last person in the line, so they kind of just dumped all the leftover blood on me and said, let's just hope for the best. We had this simulation, and it was very, very interesting. I won't go into like horrible detail. I may do that in a stream or another video later. But to sum up overall, they place us throughout this building on our campus that is about to be demolished. And it is up to us to pretty much just assume a character that matches with our wound. So for my guy, I decided that I would be quiet. I was responsive and I was active, so I was not unconscious. Surprisingly, even though I swear half of my body's blood content was laying on the ground beside of me. We had to pretty much experience a simulated school shooting, and it was, I mean, scary isn't the right word, because of course you know in the back of your head that whatever's going on is completely faked and it's not happening, and they did a phenomenal job at making sure that you felt safe and secure throughout the whole process. They even had a code word that you would say which was just simply real world emergency, if it happened that you felt uncomfortable, or if you actually got hurt, or something needed to change where people needed to stop and actually tend to your real needs. So the simulation itself pretty much consisted of 3 active shooters. It was a mother, a father, and a son who had decided to go to campus and to, I mean, lack of a better word, to shoot up the campus. And so there were about, I think, 69 people who were hurt in some way. We had some people who fell trying to escape. We had some people like me who were obviously had gunshot wounds. We also had hostages and body shields that they used. And so it was very, very elaborate, very well done. And then, of course, safety reasons, all the guns that they used were either not loaded at all. For instance, the police, anytime they would come into the room, they had fake guns that were not loaded, and they would actually point them and say bang. They wouldn't even shoot blanks because, of course, you don't want to shoot at someone with a blank because something may go wrong. That's how Bruce Lee's child died. But for the shooting, the actual shooting, they did have guns that did have blanks in them. And so they actually would walk up and down the halls firing off shots to have that kind of ring throughout the building, and so that the police could accurately locate them, just like it would be an active shooter, a real active drill. Over the next 2 hours, from start to finish, from makeup to like eating food, which I've got right here, because of course they fed us, as any good simulation would do. After we finished that, I mean, from start to finish, it was about 2 hours, and they cleared the area, made sure that the shooters were arrested, and made sure that they were in custody. And then they went room to room and took the survivors and ended up IDing them. So if you've ever seen any shows like Grey's Anatomy or House or anything like that that had like a mass casualty in it, that's pretty accurately what happens. Is we all had tags on us from I think 1 to 3, and they also were color coded, so it was red, yellow, and green, which pretty much show how stable you are. I, of course, being that I have a hole in my chest, I was a red, and there were 5 of us who were reds, which were the number one priority, the people that are fading quickly. There was blacks, which of course are the people that unfortunately had already died, and then there were yellow and greens, yellows being that they were in between of green and red. They were hurt, but not super duper hurt. And then greens, which is just they may have had a laceration here, a cut here, bumped themselves, were upset, but needed to see medical attention, but they were very, very low priority. And then the volunteer basis is we all got these, which said our name of our character that we were playing, as well as a QR code, because as we went from, you can't see that at all, mercy sakes, a QR code, because as we went from place to place, they would scan us so that they would keep track of all 69 people, of course not wanting someone to get left behind, someone to wander off, someone to be somewhere that they shouldn't be, because there were like 500 emergency personnel during this simulation. So you've got to have some way of keeping track of them. So that pretty much sums up this whole simulation. Now, I want to talk about some of my favorite parts. So first off, I've never been in a SWAT van, but of course the SWAT was part of that too. And since there were so many people, they actually ran out of ambulances and had to transport us to the, quote, hospital some other way. So they actually picked up my body and threw me into a SWAT van. And I got to ride in a SWAT van for a little bit. And then they put me on a stretcher, put me in an ambulance, and then took me the rest of the way to the hospital. As well as there was a mess load of police officers and EMTs and emergency personnel. And so it was very interesting to watch them work and how well they flowed together. I was really, really surprised with how well everything went. And yes, it took a while. But of course, you're talking about that this is a simulation, so you're trying to actually keep track of everyone instead of just trying to get them to the nearest hospital. As well as there was just so much more. There was at one point we were in the room and they were kind of checking everyone's vitals and everything, making sure everybody was okay, putting the tags on people, making sure whether they're red, yellow, green, all this. And while they're doing that, there was a response of another shooter. After they thought they had already cleared the whole area, there was another active shooter because it turned out that the child was hiding. And so he kind of went active in the middle of the simulation, which was very interesting. At the beginning, there was a car that ran through a bunch of people, and so you had people with blunt force trauma, as well as inside of the car was a bomb. So they clear out that side of the alley, and they end up getting the robots in there, and the SWAT ends up having to disarm a simulated bomb. There was a mess load of stuff happening all at once. It was a worst case scenario. Horrible, horrible worst case scenario. But it was amazingly handled by all the emergency personnel. And I think that's my favorite part of this whole simulation, was being able to see how well prepared they were, which of course makes me feel better. And although I hope, knock on wood and pray and all these other things, that none of this ever happens ever, because it would be absolutely horrible. But I'm glad that the state has taken the precautions and have trained in these simulations, not only for us, but for all the employees, and they seem very well versed and very prepared for something to happen like this. But that is the end of the Supdatey, and of course, you guys always have the opportunity to tell me how your weekend went, your week. If it's more exciting than mine, please let me know, because, I mean, this is super duper exciting, above and beyond what I normally do on a weekend. But you can put that down in the comments. And then, of course, if you liked my, let's say, you know what, if you liked my gunshot, go ahead and like the video. It'll be a good shout out to all my makeup artists who did it, because they did a phenomenal job. I still, like, I'm looking at myself in the camera, and I look horrific. But I will see you all in the next episode. Be safe. Have a great weekend. And I'll see you in the next video. Ta-ta.